Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and namaste. Welcome to this episode of the podcast series Igniting Joy. This is where we speak with those who are making a difference around them in their communities and hopefully helping us all make this a better world. Today, I'm speaking with someone who is engaged in making it better for those on a difficult journey. She is no stranger to hardship, pain, and heartbreak, but she's also an ambassador of joy. My guest today is a model, an activist, and a social media personality. She is Lana Patel. Lana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Now let's tell our listeners about you. You identify as an Afro-Indo-Caribbean woman from New York City. New York City, woohoo! And you sit on the board of Parivar Bay Area, a trans-led organization serving queer and trans folks within the South Asian diaspora. You are currently the PR and government affairs person for Bloom, which is a digital healthcare company for trans people, made by trans people. You have studied music and psychology at Florida State University. So it almost scares me when I have a guest that has a psychology background because I feel like I'm under the microscope. But hopefully that won't be the case. You sing and are a model in addition to all the work you do for the trans community. Boy, there's a lot that we would like to get into here.
Definitely.
So thank you so much once more for being here. And let's get started. Perhaps you can start by telling us a little bit about your work at Bloom. Tell us about the company, what they do, and specifically your role, because I think it's from what I've learned about it, mostly from you, in speaking before this conversation that we're having right now, is that it is doing some very, very impactful work for a lot of individuals.
Yeah, so Plume is a telehealth company in the health tech world. Plume started in 2009. So the co-founders are best friends and also doctors who went to med school together. And one of the founders of the company is a trans doctor by the name of Dr. Jerica Kirkley. And she is a trans woman herself. So she's been navigating her journey and she saw a need in the community. She has a background working for a lot of the underserved communities. She worked in HIV care as well. And in 2009, they started this company and it went from staff of 4 people to over 100 full-time, over 100 employees in general, but we have like over 80 full-time employees. And it is a company that's for trans folks by trans folks. So it was a trans woman who co-founded this company, and she's a chief medical officer. And we provide gender affirming. We started out with gender affirming hormone therapy, but we're now expanding to just overall wellness for the trans community. And we have different other offerings outside of gender affirming hormone therapy as well. And so I've been working with them since April. Actually, I've been connected with Plume since about like December 2020, and I came on as a full-time employee in April 2021. And I currently oversee PR and government affairs as a liaison, and I'm kind of the bridge between our PR agency, the government affairs folks that we work with, and I work directly with our chief medical officer and co-founder as well as her executive assistant. And so the work that Plume does is incredible because it's been reported that there's over 1 million trans-identified folks in America, and I think that's
A million, over a million.
over 1 million reported. But I feel like there's a lot more of folks that have not been reported. I think the number's a lot greater. But there are a lot of folks in the community that need this care, they need access. People in rural spaces. And so because it's in telemedicine, folks have access to providers that they wouldn't be privy to if they lived in very rural places where they would have to travel to the next metropolitan city in order to access care at a brick and mortar type of clinic. And so we're currently in 45 states and growing. And we're able to provide care to thousands of trans folks. So it's very near and dear to my heart as someone who transitions. I identify as a trans woman, and I started my transition 16 years ago.
Wow. So given that you yourself have gone through that journey, right? I mean, it seems like you can obviously bring a lot to this work that has to be done, because there are many folks out there that, and many of us do not understand all the intricacies, if you will, and the delicate nature of the subject matter, and oftentimes we don't understand the work that needs to happen so that everybody at a human level can be comfortable with who they are in their own skins, right? So if just tell us, how did, when was your, first awareness about yourself? I mean, take us back, because I think it might be educational and information for many of us about what some of the people that you're trying to help, what they might be going through, right?
Yeah. So, everyone's journey is going to be different. I definitely don't want to be the poster child for all the trans community, but for myself, I identified as a girl as early as I can remember the distinction between boys and girls. I would say 3 years old is about the age when I kind of knew. On my 18th birthday, I was speaking with my aunt, who her birthday, so my birthday is October 19th, of Libras, and my aunt, her birthday is October 18th. So growing up, she was 3 years older than me, so we always had birthday parties together, and we grew up together. And she called me for her birthday. Oh, she called me for my birthday, sorry, and I just spoke to her for her birthday. And at this point, I'd already started my transition, and she said, "Do you remember when you were younger? You were about 3 years old. We were playing house, and you told me that you were a girl." And I had no recollection of the story, but I guess I had always had this feeling. This has always been with me. So at the age of 3, I knew that I was a girl. There's a lot of talk about nature versus nurture, and I don't know in my instance where that all fits in. I had a mother that wanted a daughter. She got one. But she gave birth to 2 biological male children, and she raised me as the firstborn male. Obviously, I should have been like the Messiah, like the great thing to come, because it's an auspicious blessing to.
So your last name is Patel. So I assume your folks are of Indian origin. Is that correct? So when you talk about your mother, right? She is, from a cultural standpoint, has roots from India. And,
Yeah.
And I would assume your father as well, culturally, through his family. And I am curious, like, given that, being a South Asian myself, being from India, I know that people have some really preconceived notions and, for lack of a better word, prejudices, when a situation like this might arise in their own home. What did you, how did your parents react to all of this? And what was their position? And maybe, this is perhaps getting too personal, but were they, supportive of your, plans to move forward with the transition? Or, how did you take all this?
Yeah, so my parents are Afro-Indo-Caribbean. So my mother's Jamaican and Punjabi. She's you know, from Jamaica. And my father is Trinidadian and Gujarati. So my parents are immigrants to America, so they have a Caribbean upbringing.
Okay.
So there is the influence of South Asia, of course, with their fathers, and you know Afro Caribbean culture with their with my grandmothers, their mothers. Um, but because they were raised with Caribbean parents and background in the Caribbean, that affected their mindset, LGBTQ issues. So in the Caribbean, LGBTQ folks, especially, LGBTQ folks, I think up until recently they just started recognizing trans people. For the most part, it was just kind of seen as gay, lesbian, but they historically have not been accepted and embraced within the culture. My parents were no exception. It was definitely a tough coming out process and journey. I came out when I was 12 years old, and I started my transition when I was 17. So my parents both remarried. My stepfather came around in 2013, I would say. I started transitioning in 2006, and I came out to them in 2001. So you can kind of see the span of the years.
Over a decade.
Yeah. My biological father, I came out to him when I started transitioning. He did not accept it. He gave me this sermon about how it's wrong, and I met him with silence. And so for 10 years, I didn't talk to my father. And then we just started talking again in 2017. We are pretty estranged. We don't have the best relationship, but we're on talking terms. He has since embraced me and accepted me as his daughter. But it was very tough growing up with a misogynistic, homophobic father. I would just say that. My mother, I think, took the longest. It was about the end of 2018 into the beginning of 2019 when my mother finally accepted me. I want to say it was probably December 27th of 2018. So it's been a journey. And my mother's parents raised me, and so I think 2014 is when they finally started to embrace me in their lives as their granddaughter.
You said it took your mother a little bit longer. Why do you think that was? I mean, was it because she wanted to keep hanging on to the fact that you were a male child? I mean, I guess it was true for your father to that extent, but why do you think it took longer for your mother?
Yeah, I think for my mother it was a plethora of things, but she grew up with that mentality of the Caribbean mentality. Obviously, in South Asian culture, it's a blessing. Your first child's male, to have two male children, but then to have one of them that doesn't identify as male. I think that probably was really tough for her to accept that she had a transgender child and she was going to have a daughter, and what that looks like and what that means in society. Lokia Kahenge, right? What do people say?
Lokia Kahenge, that's right. Lokia Kahenge is always a big deal for South Asian people.
It's a very big thing. So, you have that looming over you, what will the society think? What will my friends think? What will my family think? My mother also was a young mom. She was 18 when I was born. So she was trying to figure out her life as a young woman as well. So I think there was a lot of factors involved. Ultimately, she wasn't quite sure how to navigate this journey of mine. and it was something that I had to just kind of embark on my own. But since then, we've been working on our relationship. Things are a lot better with us now. But yeah, my well, I'm gonna do a slight plug, but I do have a book. I have a book coming out next year.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Can't give that away yet.
Oh, okay.
But stay tuned. But my parents are actually going to read the book.
Okay.
They were interviewed, so you get to kind of learn their story and what the journey was like for them. But yeah, my mother talks about, how similar we are. It's like kind of eerie, like she's definitely, I'm my mother's daughter, for sure.
Beautiful. And this is what's amazing to me, that it's so wonderful when you go through a journey like this, and then you get to a point where you can say that even, and you're your mother's daughter, and she sees it that way, because it seems like it's there's definitely lots of great light at the end of what would have seemed like a very long dark tunnel for a while, right? So, folks, we are here speaking with Lana Patel, and we have these amazing, Dash radio studios on Hollywood Boulevard. We see all these stars out there. Maybe after your book comes out, and maybe, after you get a little more fame, and maybe there's a movie. Who knows? You might have a star of your own down there.
One would hope, yeah. That'd be fun.
So tell us a little bit about your modeling assignments. You've been the face of many well-known brands, and and this actually, I just thought of this now actually, because I remember, us talking briefly about this a while back, and your mother, when she sees you as her daughter now, is she now a little proud to say to people that when if there's a ad, or tell us a little bit about the commercials, or how you represented some of those brands. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, definitely talk about it. Yeah. So let's see, where do I start? I think things started to really take off as far as modeling goes in 2019. I shot a Pantene commercial, and it was pretty prolific for me because it was the first time that, prior to that, I did a few campaigns. I was the face of a brand called Georgia. That was really fun. But I had always, every year I write my list of things that I want to do and accomplish for myself. And I've always just been saying I want to be in magazines. I want to be the face of a brand. And so I got to do Georgia, was incredible. I was in some SoCal magazines. I had an ad with a brand called Mary's Beauty, which is a SoCal-based CBD brand. And then in 2019, through the Transcourse of Los Angeles, I booked Pantene.
Ah.
And there was a holiday campaign called I'll Be Home for Christmas.
Because we're getting
and we're there. I'm surprised it's not in circulation. But Ellen, the Ellen show kind of premiered us. And it was a collaboration with Glad and Procter & Gamble. And so at this time, the course had 42 members, and all 42 members auditioned for 3 roles, the 3 spotlight roles, and I was one of the 3 people that was picked for the spotlight, the featured role. And when that happened, I was in shock. I was surprised. I was happy, excited, but it was hard. It was a mix of emotions, just a lot of things at that time. But yeah, that was my first major campaign deal.
Want to tell us a little bit about the emotions?
The emotions were, I had a lot of personal things happening at that time.
Okay.
A lot of hardships, a lot of struggles, and it was coming up on a year of my grandfather's passing. My grandfather raised me, who was my maternal grandfather, and my grandmother was still alive, but her health was on the decline. So it was a lot of emotion because like I got to showcase my South Asian heritage in the commercial. Wearing a bindi, the first time I'm watching a Procter and Gamble Pantene commercial, like to be an Indo-Caribbean, wearing a bindi, getting dressed in a sari, going to my family's home for the holidays, that for me was just like incredible. So it was a lot of firsts, and then also like just the representation of being Afro and Indo-Caribbean, being a brown skinned, darker skinned person. I think all of those intersections was just amazing for me to be able to be a part of that. But then also seeing the impact. It kind of went viral once, it aired, and then I interviewed with People magazine, and before I know it, I'm like working at a nonprofit, and then I turn around and I'm in People magazine. I'm in a Procter and Gamble, like
Wow.
Glad and Pantene commercial. Like we're going viral on social media. All of these major brands are coming out to me and wanting to work with me. I'm talking to PR agencies about potentially scaling my work. And then also my grandmother, she got to see me on TV. She passed away in the beginning of the pandemic, but knowing that she saw me on TV, I think that was like the rites of passage for me because growing up, my grandmother was always kind of afraid of like what the future looked like for me, and if it was possible for me to be successful as a trans woman.
And that I think is a very, I'm sure, that was the back of the mind for a lot of your well-wishers, right?
Yeah.
And I think, so certainly you not only felt happy when you had it, when you had this opportunity, but I think perhaps it also brought joy to a lot of folks around you who were rooting for you.
Yeah.
So let's take a small pause here because I think let's test your taste in music a little bit,
Okay.
right? You decided that we should play a song from, let's play it and then we'll talk about it.
All right, let's do it. It's a good one.
So we will pause this here so we can keep talking, and we'll make sure that we play the track again for our listeners. And this is from the popular Hindi film Chandigarh Kare Aashiki. And folks, if you're just tuning in now, we are speaking with model, activist, social media personality Lana Patel, and she has been sharing a lot of amazing insights from her life. So if you missed the first part, you can always catch it later. And we just played the song from the popular Hindi film Chandigarh Kare Aashiki, which was picked by Lana Patel. So the question now is, Lana, why did you pick this song?
Chandigarh Kare Aashiki. Chandigarh is falling in love, and I am in love with the film. That film came out actually around this time last year.
Correct.
And it was a surprise to me at first because I didn't know that the film was in production, it was coming out or anything. they did a really good job about keeping that a surprise. And then obviously they went on a press tour and they started speaking more about it after I saw the film. But the moment that I saw that Ayushmann Khurrana was making a film, I was like, oh, I have to see this.
You're a fan.
So I'm a huge fan of Ayushmann.
So if Ayushmann Khurrana ever tunes into this, you should know he has an amazing fan.
Yes, yes. I love Ayushmann. I love Lana Patel, like both of them. But Ayushmann has done a lot of really great social issues films.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done a really great job. Amir Khan, I think Akshay Kumar, they've done some really great stuff. So I saw this and I was like, okay, like Ayushmann's making a film. Let me see what this is about. So I think it was Anupama. She was doing a review about the film.
This is Anupama Chopra.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
I love her reviews.
Yes.
She's an incredible reporter and journalist. And so she had a review of the film, and then I also went to watch the trailer. And I was surprised because I just saw that Ayushmann was making a film. I had no idea what the film was about. So I go to watch it, and they're saying this is a love story with a trans heroine. And I'm like, you, what? Like, okay. Now, I will say, I did watch the very first LGBTQ film, Eklati with Sonam Kapoor. And,
Ek Ladki Ko Dekha To Aisa Laga. I think that was the name. Anil Kapoor and Sonam Kapoor.
Yeah, and
Anil Kapoor plays a father in that.
Yes, and I'm like having a brain fart. This is one of my favorite Bollywood actors. He was the
yes, Rajkumar Rao.
Yes, Raj Kumar. Love Raj. So I went to go see that film, and it was nice, but it was very watered down. As far as yes, we had a queer identified person. She was supposed to have a love interest. They gave us the rated G auntie version.
The rated G auntie version.
I feel like they could have played up the romance. It just, yeah, I was a little let down. Since then, they've made some other films, but this was the first time they were making a film with the lead heroine being trans. So I literally, there was a Friday that I saw the trailer. The next day, I immediately went to go see the film. I was living, I don't know if folks know SoCal very well, but I lived in far, almost like Elsinore, and I drove all the way to West Covina to see the film. It was over an hour, but it was imperative for me to see this film. And I saw the film and I fell in love with it.
You see it alone?
I saw it alone. I had friends that I wanted to see it with, but geographically they were all kind of spread out all over, so I wasn't gonna wait to see the film with someone else. If they couldn't watch it when I was ready, then we would have to watch it another time. I immediately went to go see the film, and I was in love. I was a little skeptical. I had my concerns. Bonnie Kapoor was incredible, but I was always also wondering immediately after seeing the trailer, why wasn't a trans actress casted for this? But then after watching the film, my thoughts kind of changed a bit.
I think she sold it.
Oh, she sold it.
Yeah.
I loved her in the role. I think she did an amazing job, and I think it was a huge risk for her. If the film did not take off the way that they had intended, it could have hampered her career, right?
You think that still matters in this day and age?
She was taking a big risk. I think someone like Ayushmann, he could probably recover from that, but her as someone who was playing the trans character, it could have hampered her if it wasn't a success. That was something that I did think about. And I think of the optics when they're making these films. Obviously, they're spending huge budgets. They want to recuperate, right? So when you're casting, you want to make sure that you have someone who's going to pull in an audience. At this time, Bollywood doesn't have a A-list trans actress. I hope that changes in time, but I understand that's why they didn't cast.
Well, maybe that's when we get you your star of it.
My Hindi is on par with Katrina. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I'm not quite there, but. Yeah.
But no, but see, Vani Kapoor, as I said, I think she sold it. She did an amazing job in the movie. She plays, and obviously, it's quite clear you identified with the character in the movie, and it was very, I think, refreshing that it wasn't an offbeat art house film. It was very mainstream Hindi cinema. I refrain from using the word Bollywood as much as possible, by the way, personally.
Okay.
Because I think it's a rip off on the word Hollywood, and it doesn't respect either Hollywood or the Indian film industry. So, but it's okay. It's a popularity. That's why I just realized I didn't say Bollywood. I just said Hindi cinema, but I thought I should explain that. But in the film, Vani Kapoor plays a trans woman who has completely transitioned. She is what I think some would describe as post-op.
Yes.
Yes.
Post-operative.
Yeah, and can you help us, sort of take a more closer look at what that means, and what has your journey been like as well? I mean, what are some of the challenges and some of the, I'm sure there are concerns and there are all kinds of doubts that come into people's minds, perhaps, or maybe not. I'm not knowledgeable to speak to that, but perhaps you can enlighten all of us on that front.
Yeah, I think the film did a really great job speaking about the experience. It was very true to life. I don't think that they deviated far from what the experience is like. Transitioning, family, dating, being a trans woman out of the world. Bonnie Kapoor's character, the post-operative in the trans sense, is generally referring to someone who has undergone gender-affirming surgery. 9 times out of 10, if we're talking about a trans woman, someone who was born male and transitioned to a woman, they have had a vaginoplasty. And so.
I'm sorry, they have what's the word?
They've had a vaginoplasty.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and then they depict that in the film as well. They show kind of what that journey is like.
They have diagrams in the film.
Yeah. Yeah, so post-operative would be the term for someone who's undergone that surgery. I myself have undergone my own journey, surgeries, been on several tables, just to have congruency with my mind, my body, and to kind of feel at peace with myself. I think it was imperative to be able to like what I see in the mirror, and to feel at home and comfortable with myself.
So you had the gender affirming surgery.
I had gender affirming surgery.
So and at any point in that process, did you ever have because you knew you wanted to do it, obviously, as you said, to be at peace with yourself, to like what you see in the mirror and so forth. But did you at any point have any last minute doubts? And because people, even when they know they want to do something, often at the very last minute, for many things, it's not just about it, that's the way the human brain sometimes plays tricks on you. Did you go through any such emotion or any such moment in your decision process?
I did. One of my surgeries was, I remember going in for the consultation and I was ready. I knew I wanted to do the surgery, but the surgical office called me exactly 1 month before the surgery. And I didn't have time to preserve any type of specimen if I wanted to have a biological child in the future. So they say that you should be off hormones for at least 6 months to a year in order to preserve any type of DNA. And I had 1 month. I mean, that wouldn't work. And I also knew how I felt when I wasn't on hormones. And so I had to come to terms with the fact that I probably would never be able to have a biological child. And um, yeah, that was a tough one. Making this life altering decision in a moment's notice. And I had a month to kind of sit with that and then, go on to the night and say goodbye to that possibility. I've since come to terms with it. I'm okay with, my partner maybe using like his DNA for a surrogate if we were to have a biological child, or adopting children, or getting a partner that already has children. There are 8 billion people in the world. There's so many orphans out there. I've always wanted to adopt children anyway. So I'm okay now with that idea. I have my moments where I wonder, like, what would mini me be like? But I have 5 nieces, and so I get to see little mini me's, kind of. And so that brings me a lot of joy. And, when the time comes, if and when I'm supposed to be a mother, then I'll accept a child, however it comes.
And then there are, so many women out there who, want, with all, with their female organs, if you will, and they are unable to conceive, they cannot have children. I mean, it is not necessarily always just something that is, I'd like to think, in the control of us human beings. So if you think about it from that point of view, it's, in your situation would be in many ways no different from those women. Of course, you had to make a choice.
Yeah.
So there's that to it. Now, these, obviously your life has been one of making choices. And at many points, just like you just described, this instance of having those thoughts or those doubts, it may have come up in your mind that, is this the way to go or not? And there may have been similar points with other decisions along the way. When in this process do you think, does a person feel relief or even joy, if you will? Because there's a lot of struggle, right, in everything you've described. And I can sit here and say this with a straight face because I haven't gone through your struggle. But I can understand that there is struggle, and I hopefully our listeners get a sense of that as well, that these things are not easy. And that's why if we want to make a better world, we need to do things to make it easier for people. It can never be entirely easy because a lot of it is in your own mind and your own thinking. But the least we can do is make for a supportive environment. But in your own mind, where in this process did you think finally that, okay, I have a sense of relief, or I am, in a joyous state?
Yeah, I think, like I said, everyone's journey is going to be different, and there are moments of joy, I think, throughout the journey. It's definitely a struggle, but I think of like 2 things. They're both floral, but a concrete rose, and I think of a lotus flower. And coming up from harsh conditions, but being able to successfully bloom and blossom. When I see a concrete rose, or when I see a lotus, coming from unfavorably conditions, but being able to like exist and sit with grace and beauty in that. I would say, life just has its moments, its ebbs and flows. And you have moments of joy, and then you have moments of struggle. There are moments where you do have to navigate, like maybe murky waters of trials and tribulations. Joy for me, I think I've had spurts of it throughout my journey. I won't say that I'm in a place now where it's joy 24/7.
It's not true for anyone for that matter.
Yeah. There are a lot of hardships that are not present currently, which are nice.
Mm.
I like not having to struggle with maybe like passing, navigating the world, having people uh, assuming anything that is not, I think in a way I have been given some privilege as far as beauty standards and being able to assimilate in cisgender society. I'm very grateful for that. And I think what gives me joy these days is like being able to just like live in my truth, um, help the next person, and seeing the ways in which the world is changing.
I'm sitting here so amazed, Lana. Given your story and what you've been through and where you arrived, you sit here with so much grace and with so much, with such a generous feeling about everything. It's really, I'm really quite impressed and amazed by that. Folks, we are here with Lana Patel, social media personality, an activist, a model, and a singer who has picked out multiple songs. So we're going to play one more song that she's picked up, and we're going to see if we can pull that up right now. Let's go. Let's see this. We'll definitely play this full song for our listeners at the end of the episode. But wow, इन आँखों की मस्ती के मस्ताने हजारों हैं, इन आँखों से वाबस्ता अफसाने हजारों हैं. This is one of my favorite songs too. You have to show your aankhein now. You've been wearing these very stylish glasses, but there you go, a little peek, huh? But it's an immensely it's a song with so many layers to it, and it's decades old. I can't remember when it first came out. Sung by the inimitable Asha Bhosle, one of the greatest ever, and it's amazing that you would pick the song from way back when. So what's the secret? Tell us. Maybe, are you referring to your many mastanas, or are you referring to the many stories around this? What is it?
Rika G is just an incredible presence, and she's so captivating. When I saw this film, it's one of my favorite films. It's a classic. But when I take Kathak myself, and
Okay.
so
Something you didn't tell me before. So, folks, Lana Patel is a Kathak dancer as well.
yeah, I do take Kathak. Shout out to Tosha Patel with RB Dance Studios, and I've always had a love for classical music and dance. This film in particular, it just really resonates with me. Both this film and the remake with Aishwarya Rai. I think it's kind of tugged at my heartstrings every time I've watched it. But to see her journey, and like how she's just so poised and she has this grace and she's captivating and she meets this sultan and he falls in love with her. and he wants more than anything to just be with this woman and to like save her from this life that she's living in. And so I've had moments myself where I felt like around, you know, um, I've,
Is there a story here?
is there a story here? There's so many stories. I mean, how much time do we have?
We have all the time in the world, Lana. Just tell us what you want the world to know.
Yeah. You know,
And if there's something you want to share without letting the world know, we can talk after the show.
you can always, park about this. No, the grace that Kathak dancers have, right? And then also, her character. I'm a lover for like fashion, culture, art. Like one of these days, I'm gonna sit down and like reenact this video, this scene. I want to do the altar and the jewelry and everything.
By the way, this is something I don't know how true this is, but I heard somewhere that all the jewelry that Rekha wears in the film was her own.
Wow.
Yeah, she brought her own jewelry. So, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay.
So if you're going to reenact that, you're going to have to figure that part out.
I mean, I hopefully have enough connections with some, brands. If you're watching this, please, like, even if I borrow pieces, that's fine. But yeah, I would love to recreate that. I think of her story as a young girl who kind of lost her innocence, was sold to this brothel, and was kind of forced to grow up early, to be a woman at an early age. She lost her innocence, but had to survive, right? And she learned the arts as a form of survival. And she meets someone who sees her humanity and he sees the grace within her. And she has like this epic love with this person, and then there's another man who sees her and has cast Nazar on her, right? And from there, like everything kind of goes into ruins. And in the end, she finally gets reunited with her family, but it's like the Nazar, and she's almost branded with a scarlet letter. So she's not embraced by anyone, really. She's an outcast, a deviant to society because she was sold into this brothel, and her family has like moved on with their lives. They've accepted that she's gone. She's no longer welcomed into the family. She loses her home, the brothel. She loses the love of her life. And so there were a lot of parallels. I mean, I didn't grow up in a brothel, thank God, but as someone who moved out of my mother's house at 13 years old, had to navigate
a lot of your own.
Yeah, a lot of things on my own. Transitioning at 17 years old.
Yeah.
Falling in and out of love, hoping for a chance at that great epic, about a type of love story.
No Ayushmann Khurranas along the way.
Several.
Oh.
Several Ayushmann.
Well, let's talk about it. Can we?
Oh. Yeah. How much time do we have?
We have all the time in the world, Lana.
I was engaged twice. My first time, I was young and naive, and I wasn't ready, for sure. I'm glad that it didn't work out the first time around. But yeah, I would say it was like an epic love story. It was very beautiful, very poetic. It was very different. I'm someone who kind of navigated life. I'm a Libra, I'm ruled by Venus. I love love. That's just my nature. And I've always been one seeking.
By the way, I believe everyone loves love. I don't think.
We all love love. But as a Libra, someone who's ruled under Venus, like Taurus and Libra, like that's our planet, right? And so, there's always suitors. There's always love. There's always attraction. And I've always been hopeless romantic. And I've always been one to just like try to find the other half. Like who is that for me? And so yeah, my first fiance, he came into my life at a time, a very interesting time. I just gone through a breakup and I was jaded and kind of heartbroken and not looking for love. But I met this person and he was Gujarati and it was my first time dating someone Gujarati, someone South Asian. I had been with like Indo-Caribbean, but not like South Asian.
Got it.
And yeah,
No, that's okay. No, we're not going to pry. If you're not,
No,
that's
that's
perfectly fine. But can I ask you a question? This may sound a bit like prying or even insensitive. I apologize in advance, but were these individuals, did they identify as cis males?
Yeah, they all identify as cis males. I've gone on dates with people who were trans male or trans men, non-binary people.
And the only reason I ask is because I want our listeners to understand that what they saw, for example, in that film, Chandigarh Kare Aashiki or symbols, is not unusual.
No,
This is a very,
common.
very, very, normal thing to happen, right? I mean, there is no reason why it would be any different.
Yeah,
But there are people who may have these things in their head that, how would, let's say, a cis person react? Or if they, or how would they behave and so forth. Because in the film, they get into that a little bit. So,
that was a very accurate depiction.
okay.
Honestly, I've been in these situations. I don't recommend having a full-blown love affair and not telling
Mhm.
the guy that you're trans. I think it could go very wrong. But I've done that. I've been there. So yeah. But yeah, the first Ayushman Khurrana.
Apologies to you, Ayushman. We're just using your name now because of the film.
Yeah, but the first one was epic. Yeah, he was very certain that I was the one, and I, at the time, didn't want to be captured, and I told him, if you want me, then you'll have to do it the traditional way. You'll have to propose. And he was up for the challenge. He, proposed. He gave me a ring, and he was something special. I never dated someone who was like truly invested in me and saw me as his dream girl and wanted the best for me. And he was ready to like fight the world for me. He was ready to
Oh my
lead the
God.
world.
Knight in shining armor.
Yeah, so when you talk about, Hindi cinema and Bollywood and all these things, like he was a true hero. Like I said, I was young and not ready at that time, and so I called it off. We found our way back to each other a few years later. And we tried to make it work. Obviously, things have changed, over the years, and I unfortunately had to walk away the second time, heartbroken, devastated. It felt like separation of Brahma and Krishna. It was like two bodies, one soul, and I don't know. It was very tough. But the second one wasn't the same, scenario. Obviously, I just walked away from the love of my life, but it was a beautiful love story. Didn't have the happiest of endings, but it's life.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I said good because I see that you have such a great attitude about this whole thing, about everything. It's just amazing to me that you really have a lot of generosity of spirit, I'd like to call it, because you have approached almost everything in your life, it seems, with this, there is life beyond this, and that is, I think, extremely commendable. If you could go back, because you mentioned, different ages at which you had to take different steps. If you could give yourself some advice, like Lana Patel at the age of 11 or the age of 13. 13 was an age of mention, right? Or 11.
I was 12 when I came out, and 13 when I moved
Okay,
out.
so yes, so 12 or 13. And Lana again at the age of 18. What advice would you give them, knowing all you do about your journey, about the heartbreaks, about the Ayushmans, about all the different things? I mean, pick anything. Because I think there may be a few people out there who are at that stage right now. Right?
Yeah. Lana at 12. I would say, it's tough because if I can go back, I would have changed the course of everything. My life would be different. I don't know. I don't know. Would I be Lana Patel right now? I don't know. Like be Lana Patel in that sense. I would say be daring, go for it. Um, yeah, be daring, go for it, and then things are going to come together. Um, I was always just a very bold, gutsy. I think I was the rebel of my family, and I was the first to come out, and I just said, "This is me. Like, take it or leave it." And I'm not going to fold for anyone. I don't care what the future looks like. And I was 18 when my stepfather had this conversation with me when they found out I was transitioning, and I told them I'd rather be homeless than to stop transitioning and live a life that you want from me. And they thought you're on your way to be a psychiatrist, so to stay in school and you can dress up when you're done. They thought this was just fun playtime. And I told them, it's a 10-year journey that I'm on for my education. I don't want to wait till I'm 28 years old to start my journey. I'm ready now. So I would say hang in there, keep that fighter, that spirit, At 13, the same. Life is gonna get a little crazy, but stay strong. You'll see yourself through. At 18, same thing. 18, I talked about this a little bit in the canteen interview I did, but, when my family found out, my stepfather shaved my head bald. And so they tried everything to strip me of my femininity. So I would just say, hang in there, stay strong. Everything's gonna work itself out. The Yushman come out into the world, they will come. I mean, if I could do it different, I definitely would have done it different. But the epic love stories that have come into my life, I don't know if I would have embraced them the same had I not kissed all those frogs. I wouldn't be able to appreciate a good man without all the bad ones.
Well, fair enough. So, given everything that we've talked about today and the work you do on a daily basis, right, at Plume, and you have spoken about your journey today, you've spoken about it on other occasions with other people. What is the sense, what do you feel, how do you feel when you have shared, and especially when I guess that is one aspect of it, but more importantly, when you are doing the work for Plume, where there are lots of people who come looking for help, right? They are it's not available, either the treatments are not available to them, or they don't know the right questions to ask, or there could be a whole plethora of things that they are struggling with, right? Does that bring you a sense of additional fulfillment, or it would seem to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that it's almost like it's like a gift that you can help these people because you've been through it yourself.
Yeah, I am a little bit more like supportive in my role. Obviously, I'm not like a clinician or provider of the company, but knowing the work that's being done, I think is incredible. And I also want to tie it into Bodyguard and like the work that's happening on that front. Um, to be a part of a organization that's directly impacting the lives of trans, patriarch, folks, I think is incredible. Um, so yeah, Plume is obviously US based, but to see the work that's happening in the US and then also in the diaspora for South Asians, I think is incredible. And Bolivar actually created CFL, which was Save Indian Trans All Lives and the pandemic, as a way to help the community that were being just proportionalized during COVID. And so now they have livelihood projects where they're able to help trans folks, Gujaras and Guinar folks in India, Bangladesh, and other regions to be entrepreneurs and create livelihoods outside of dying or doing survival sex work. So I think of like overall wellness, like being able to access care, but being able to access like basic amenities and being able to access livelihood. I think that's also really important. To be able to work for a place like Plume and to also be able to serve on the board for Bodyguard as vice president, I think is it goes back to the wholeness. And it goes back to like the joy, being able to support something beyond myself. And I'm very much a component of SEVA. I want to positively impact my community by giving back, and this allows me to.
I mean, I think you said it because would you agree that joy is the reward of seeking to bring joy or at least take away somebody's hardship, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're engaged in that. I think many of our listeners would be very thankful. I am hoping that someone out there has found this conversation really, really helpful and useful to them. Any final thoughts, Lana, before we wrap up our conversation today?
Yeah. I think that as far as joy, finding joy, there's always bits and pieces and spurts of joy. And I think if we have the mindset of looking at the glass half full, we'll always find the joy in life, right? Like the sun has come out. That's the moment to be exuberant, to have joy. Like I'm a plant mom, I have tons of plants, but just the way that the light hits the window and kisses the leaves of my plants, and seeing flowers bloom. I have a narcissus flower, which is beautiful, but just those little things, waking up, being able to just get out of bed, to breathe, to be able-bodied, to have another day at life, I think just brings me joy. And so I implore everyone to just like find what that looks like and what that means for them. There's joy and beauty in everything. We just have to keep our eyes open.
There's joy and beauty in everything. Lana, true words, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. And folks, thank you for being here today. I have to, you made time because of a busy day and so forth. Folks, that was our conversation with social media personality, model, activist, singer, and now Kathak dancer, Lana Patel. Thank you, Lana.
Thank you.
Ruckus Avenue Radio.